We are back at AM&AA Winter Conference in St. Petersburg, Florida, and this is M&A Access. I'm your host, Jordan Wendelken, and we are with Glenn Oken with Mangrove Equity Partners. You're the managing director.
Hello, yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We just started the show, so I would normally say, how's it going with the show?
Right.
What have you done so far? But really, did you get here? Well, Tampa based, so
Very quick commute.
So you just
Very
drove
easy.
over here.
Yeah.
You are involved in the Tampa chapters?
Well, we've been attending the national meetings for probably 3 decades, so we have a lot of old friends at this organization.
I'm going to just jump right in it because we were speaking a little bit before we went on air here that 33 years in the industry.
That's right. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's a lot of fun.
That's kind of the bread and butter, so to speak, when it comes to AM&AA because it's an advisory association, and of course the M&A industry. So anybody who it's like a good Scotch. If anything over 15 years is top shelf over here. So so we're happy to have you. And let's talk about your company a little bit. You were telling me 160 investments that you've had.
Right, in just over 60 industries over the years.
In 60 industries. Okay, well, let's start listing them now. I want to get on a personal level. What are some of your personal favorites as far as the industries are concerned? And what really turns your wheels?
Yeah, well, I guess there are a couple different levels of that.
Okay.
One is purely from a business standpoint, get very excited about companies that portend stability and yet have a real opportunity to generate meaningful value growth. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit more on the tedious side of things, but it does excite us.
So
right?
So does that mean that they're showing it already, or you foresee it and you see their potential?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
The foundation is there. Since we're not early stage investors, we invest in very mature companies that often are among the strongest competitively in their industry, or maybe the region of the country in their industry. So they're doing some things extraordinarily well, and they're very well established. But an awful lot of entrepreneurial businesses, they reach an inflection point. An awful lot of entrepreneurs, perhaps they have finite resources from a human resource standpoint. They're perhaps somewhat risk averse, and they're doing extraordinarily well. They don't particularly need to or care to invest differently in the company. And they frankly, some folks reach a point where they don't quite have the zest for undertaking significant changes on their own, and they may seek a partner to invest capital and experience and resources to break through that inflection point and take that next level of growth, and often taking chips off the table personally in the process. So that's a common story.
Okay. Well, they say the devil's in the details, but the details, I feel, are in the data. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to whether it's just the deal itself or the process or even the initial stages and the due diligence, the data that you're taking in to consider whether or not this is a good opportunity for your group, what are you typically diving into? Because you're already telling me that you're focused on well-matured companies. What does that mean to you?
Right. As we're supposed to solve for stability, we're going to look at what industry they're in, and we will either have some previous exposure and have an understanding of how hyper-cyclical an industry is or is not. The numbers that we see regarding a specific company, obviously, they tell quite a story as well. Mm-hmm. They'll help us to understand perhaps how commoditized the business is. Do they win new business purely by having the lowest price, or are they doing something that not everyone can do quite as well? But we go beyond numbers and industry, obviously, and we're looking for an understanding of how strong the team is. And we don't need to have a perfectly replete team to partner with a team. It's not uncommon at all to see certain functions be underinvested in, where the company can really benefit, and the people running the company, the incumbent managers, can benefit greatly by having better information, for example, from which to run the company.
Okay.
But you'd asked what gets us excited, and I shared perhaps some of the more mundane stuff, but there are other industries that are flat out just fun as well.
Okay.
We do an awful lot in the industrial realm, both niche industrial manufacturing and mission critical, non-commoditized industrial service sectors. We've done quite a bit with enthusiast-driven branded consumer. And candidly, that can be very fun. For example, we just very recently were fortunate to partner with our 7th platform in the enthusiast-driven auto aftermarket.
Okay.
This happens to be the dominant player in manufacturing air conditioning systems for people restoring classic cars.
Nice.
So occasionally, that bucket of industries tends to bring us some things that are pretty fun, above and beyond just the pure business aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's interesting because in your role and being able to kind of dive into the details, the nitty-gritty of some of these companies, you really have to learn and start getting associated with the industry.
Oh yeah.
Not just because you're invested in it, but you're interested in it. And to add to that, because I'd spoken about it earlier, is that you work with the owners to help grow revenue and profitability. And with that said, and what we were just talking about, you can't just go in there willy-nilly. I mean, you've got to know a little bit about it. And in many ways, that can be the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it.
No.
You mentioned that I've been doing this for 33 years,
right.
And an awful lot of the people attending this conference have been doing this for a while. I think a big part of it is that it can and should be a lot of fun. I mean, it's a great privilege to get to know and learn from people that are dominant in their industry, are doing very well in their industry, and they're entrepreneurs. They've accomplished incredible things. So it is great fun to understand the people, their stories, and the business's story. And then a greater privilege even to bring to bear what we have with all the experience that our team has, including a 3-partner internal operating team that serves as a support system for our portfolio companies. It's a great privilege to roll up the sleeves and try to help folks reach their next the next level.
And likely with various skill sets that they bring to the table.
You're absolutely right. One of my internal operating partners, for example, Roger Bates, is a phenomenal industrial engineer, effectively. He was a second-generation Deming disciple.
Okay.
So an amazingly sophisticated and deep tool set in helping entrepreneurial companies, and in his past, larger companies, optimize functional areas. Whatever the area is, where there was a true opportunity to optimize and break through an inflection point, things that were holding a company back and reducing risk in the process. That is one focal skill set. Another operating partner, Matt Young, who's one of my co-founders. Matt works very closely with portfolio companies and has done an awful lot in helping to build sales and marketing organizations at portfolio companies. And going back to Roger, he's just a great strategist. And so going through strategic planning processes is an early part of this process of getting to know where the opportunities lie, and then capitalizing on those opportunities.
That's fantastic, and that goes into the relationship building factor that is involved when doing these mergers, these acquisitions, these new investments for you. Now, a lot of people and I know that at a higher level, when you're getting into the, even 20, 30, 40 million EBITDA category. And of course, I'm always surprised when they don't have as much put together as you would think that they would. But with that said, some folks think that investment is more of a loan, and that I just need that investment to help kind of get me to that next level or position me to pivot left or right. And that's not what we're doing here with your company. What we're doing here is we are investing sweat equity, actual equity, and you're helping to position them to grow. Do you find that you're doing that just to help grow the company that you're now invested in, or is it oftentimes to position it for sale, for merge, acquisition, so on and so forth?
All the above.
Yeah.
We are building enduring value, though. When you are fundamentally helping entrepreneurs with their operations to the extent that they ask, us to help them improve the business fundamentally, you're building enduring value.
Of course.
So even if one didn't look forward to an exit, there's value in that to all stakeholders, including the rank and file employees.
Yes.
Part of our team's job, when asked, is to be a very good coach and to help an organization, even culturally, make the most of the human capital and give people opportunity, give them the tools that they need to do an excellent job, have a lot more fun in the process typically, focus on the things that are the vital few things, and it builds value and it provides opportunity across the board, whether we're thinking of an exit or not.
No, that's great, and I agree with that 100%. It's really good to hear investment firms who take that time, that put in that sort of relational work, because this can be a tricky situation in an industry to be in many ways. And with that said, the economy right now, I don't know. I feel good about the economy, but at the same time, when I'm reading my news feed, I'm like, why am I not seeing this in just my average life? How is the doom and gloom, but also, I'm hearing that a lot of what's happened since the pandemic is there's been kind of this cash pooling where there was a little bit of a hiatus per se, and now people are positioned in many ways not using larger banks and having more of that private equity built up to invest. And so there's a little bit of a boom going. I've heard. How is that in your world?
I think broadly you're right, and I've been at this long enough to have been through a number of macro cycles. I don't think that the availability of capital through private equity funds or through family offices has done anything but gone up. Now, with some minor bumps along the way, but I think that's in a very clear long-term trend and direction. I think our job is to help. Well, we want to invest in companies that aren't going to be particularly whipsawed by macroeconomic shifts, and to position every company to be as well positioned as they can be to survive and actually sometimes thrive through economic dislocations. But if I can go back for a second, you mentioned something that struck me, talking about the relationship approach.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of people, hopefully, in private equity are obviously very genuinely interested in the people that they partner with and want the best for all parties. But it is interesting, with an internal operating team and bent and having that really just be in our DNA, it does tend to be a different relationship, because it's operator to operator, it's entrepreneur to entrepreneur, as opposed to finance person to engineer, operator, entrepreneur.
Right.
And the relationship tends to be a little different, and very, very quickly. There's a level of understanding, of trust, and a faith in carrying our own weight, really being helpful in a real way, that they trust, as opposed to just financial engineering.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. So, you're bringing, like we had said, 160 of these deals or these investments that you've had over the 33 years. And that really speaks for itself. Process, strategy. Yes, having a solid team in place is important, but being able to work with that team well, having put these hours in, having gone through these different deals, it's really helped you to, it's like an athletic team. You could put the best players. It's the all-star team. The all-star team, why isn't it, they're not always the best. Right? Yeah. Because they just haven't put in that work hour together and really developed that sync.
And maybe they're not folks that chose to be together because they were like-minded in values and their core principles, and then all the reps together. I think it's a combination of the right people together and then the right experience together.
So I know we talked about some of the fan favorites for you in industries, but tell me a little bit about what kind of turns your wheels in the industry and what you do and how you service with your company. What fires you up? What wakes you
yeah.
up in the morning going, I'm happy to go to work today?
The private equity industry?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's about people, and it sounds corny, but it's about people both in our own shop, the people I care very, very much about, and they're incredible people in every regard, technically, and then just as human beings, they're just terrific people. So, limited partners ask me, especially as I get a little bit older, they'll say, so why do you keep doing this? What do you enjoy? And that is the truthful answer. That translates beyond or applies beyond our own shop, right? It is always a thrill to get to know, again, these entrepreneurs that have accomplished so much and to learn from them and to earn their trust, and hopefully deservedly so, and then be good for that trust and make good things happen for everybody.
Sure, that's great.
It's fun.
Every job has its great parts and its tougher parts. In your world, what are one of the things that you just recognize it's part of the job, but it's sometimes can be a little bit of a bear? What are some of those things? Let me give you a for instance.
Yeah.
Data is very much needed in the marketing world, right? It helps drive our decisions, but it's not often the easiest to collect the right amount of data that you need so that there is a decent percentage that is a little bit of a gamble and a guessing game, and that makes the waters a little uneasy, but also there is the fun in experiencing and learning from that. But those, from a marketing standpoint, data collection and reviewing that data can sometimes be a bit of a bear. So what's something like that you would say in your world?
Yeah, I would say that this is very subjective for sure, but when we see folks doing things that maybe they ought not do, maybe it's not best for the company or for themselves, and again, it's very subjective.
Sure.
And it's deleterious to us in some way. So, for example, the industry, the market broadly, is I think a lot of people understand, is pretty frothy. I mentioned that multiples have been going up, from time immemorial. I mean, it's been going on for a long, long time. The degree to which that has happened recently, a lot of people don't think is necessarily the best thing for the companies involved. If someone is exiting entirely and they don't necessarily care about the risks that are associated with a higher level of debt, perhaps, or a high multiple paid, then it probably doesn't matter as much to them. But that's not something that makes me happy about the trend in the industry right now, and it's not helpful to us. And occasionally you might see things, some folks, understandably, owner-operators, they may, through some anecdotal stories that they've heard, have a negative image of private equity. And it doesn't take many people to misbehave or to be less than stellar partners.
Sure.
To create that buzz, and it's very often inaccurate, obviously, and so that's not gratifying. But hey, it's our job to be a data point to the contrary, in the extreme, and to be an extraordinary partner, and hopefully we can create some positive buzz.
Well, that's great to hear, and it's always good to hear when you're examining the industry, not just your own lane, in the sense that you're looking at what's out there, and you're able to answer a lot of those maybe fears or approach those objections in a positive way that helps. Which, at the end of the day, people move forward and progress and grow in their own, hopefully, passion and industry that they're in. And, we're happy to have you here, and definitely happy to have you on the show. I'm really thankful that you were able to share some of that experience and some of the storytelling that you did there. And that's Glenn Oken with Mangrove Equity Partners. This is M&A Access. I'm your host, Jordan Wendelken, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on M&A Access. If you enjoyed what you just watched, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe for more content just like that.